What is going on out there, peeps? All right, let's touch bases on what's going on in Iraq because a few things are happening. There's some pros and there's some cons. Some things are very interesting that we're seeing here. Very confusing messaging, to say the least. We're going to get into that here in just a moment. If you're thinking about buying gold and silver, please check out our friends over there at Money Metals Exchange. The link is down below in the description. If you are a first-time buyer and you spend more than $100, use promo code Pimpy, P-I-M-P-Y, and get a free ½ ounce of silver. For those of you asking for my address, here it is. Just pause and write it down. All right, and you know I have this alternative website over there, and I post videos that I cannot show on YouTube. So I encourage you guys to come on over here and check them out. There's some really good ones. I posted one yesterday that I think people would really enjoy right here, and also giving you my perspective that what we are hearing about in the media regarding the January 6th event, because I was there. So I give you my perspective on things and give you something to consider. Anyways, you guys know we have Pimpy's Investment Chat on Facebook. It's a Facebook group. It's free to join. Over here, we do talk about gold, silver, and cryptocurrencies, as well as foreign currency investments. I encourage you to come on over here and check us out. Okay, so here's something that we expected, or at least I did, and I spoke about it right before or right after the elections. That it was just a matter of time before Biden removed sanctions against Iran and allowed them to make a nuclear bomb. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. That's exactly what they want them to do. They want Iran to control the Middle East. It's always been that way. This is just, again, the third term of the Obama administration. That's all this is. The very same people that negotiated the Iran nuclear deal are now the same people that are in charge of it now, except for they've been promoted. So, as stable as the Middle East is at the moment, and you can thank Trump for this because the Abraham Accords kept things from getting out of control. We're seeing that those very nations that are involved in the Abraham Accord, plus Saudi Arabia, have been meeting quite regularly. They know they cannot count on the Biden administration to do anything. So in shooting the crap with my friend, I said, what are the real concerns? He goes, they're about a couple months away from having an actual nuclear weapon. I said, wow. He goes, not a big one, but they have already learned how to minimize, put them on the head of missiles, short-range missiles, the nuclear. And I said, so here's my confusion about all this, people. Then maybe you can answer this in the comments. Supposedly, quote unquote, we just bombed some Iranian-backed militia groups that have been shooting off missiles to attack and kill American soldiers. Remember that yesterday? There was a bombing. But yet, we're going to turn around and take off sanctions and allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon? Yeah. Okay. Does that make sense to you? But getting back into the investment portion of this, remember I was talking about the Iranian rial? So if they remove sanctions, not only are they going to remove them off of the country, they've already removed them off 3 business individuals. And they're also talking about removing them off the Ayatollah. This will stimulate the economy. This will cause the value of the Iranian rial to increase, of course. But the messaging, and again, everybody should be expecting this. This should not be no surprise. Biden doesn't even know who he is. Kamala is running everything through Obama. All this is a continuation of their movement into the Great Reset. The Biden administration is considering lifting sanctions on Iran's supreme leader as part of negotiations aimed at reviving the 2015 nuclear deal. Here's the problem. Although Trump took the United States out of the nuclear deal, it didn't end it. Europe still stayed in the deal. As of 6 weeks ago, they said all the things in the agreement that they are not supposed to do, they continued to do it. So they violated their own agreement. They have no intentions on stopping unless somebody stops them. They are full steam ahead on creating nuclear weapons. If Iran gets nuclear weapons, then of course, who in the Middle East is going to oppose them? See what I'm saying? This then allows, through force, Iran to control the Middle East, which is exactly what the plan was all along. U.S. and Iranian negotiators have discussed a possible move in direct talks in Vienna. Why are we even talking? Why are we removing sanctions when they didn't even honor the contract in the first place? This is just ridiculous. More to anything else is, look, like I had anticipated, they're going to remove the sanctions. You can count on the Iranian rial to start to increase in value somewhat. How much, it remains to be seen. But if there's no sanctions, that means the economy is allowed to function. And if it's allowed to function, of course, their currency should strengthen. So, back over into Iraq. Parliament reveals a positive sign for Iraq during the Baghdad summit. Of course, we know this. The countries all got together to continue to talk about doing business together, to continue to talk about how they can help one another. But I promise you, that wasn't the only things they were talking about. They are talking about what the hell is going on in Iran. There's no doubt about it. And what they're going to be able to do about this situation. Now, what I don't like is Bibi Netanyahu, I guess that's how you say his name, was voted out of office by a Soros-backed candidate. So, this world continues to move in a direction that we did not want. So, we'll see what happens. But for now, at least the peace is still there at the moment. But I do believe the Arab nations are getting together. They are going to make a stand. They had to anticipate this was going to happen. It probably happened much sooner than they anticipated, considering everybody knew that 45 was going to do a second term until the November 3rd event. So anyways, it goes on in here to talk about the three countries getting together, talking about what they need to do. Again, same thing, opportunities, files and common interests, implement strategic projects that combine Cairo, Baghdad, and Amman, and enable the building of solid and balanced foundation amongst their brotherly countries. So they're working together as they should. So this is good. We already knew about this. So this is interesting. Iraq holds a conference to invest human resources and move the labor market to move the economy to a new stage. So the first part of this article goes on to defend why it is that Iraq needed to devalue their currency. It says that it was a very good move. It was bold, but necessary. So it goes on here. The Iraqi economy and the kinks that the country suffers from that have been rooted for some time, and the importance of moving towards the right direction. Positive of the decision to devalue the national currency on a national economy. The importance of the white papers and the mechanisms it came with that we consider a prescription for the disease of the national economy. So, the reason why anybody coming in to talk about labor, we're talking about manual labor workers, why they loved a devalued currency is because labor becomes cheaper. This attracts outside interest groups like they have in China, who manipulates their currency, Vietnam, who manipulates their currency, because the cost of labor in these countries is very, very low, and the cost of supplies low if they come directly from that country. So a perfect example is those traders, Nike, those ones that came straight out and said their market is for China and not the United States anymore. Yeah, those traders. So what they do is they outsource the production of the Nikes to China. So it costs, like, I think it is $1.40 per shoe to be made, according to their labor rates. But then they import them here into the United States and they sell them for hundreds of dollars. Do you see why investors would be interested in countries like that? So, of course, the labor people are going, hey, this is a great move. It's going to help Iraq. So, it just depends on really what's on the mind of the Iraqi leaders. And that is fine. We'll drop it low. We'll lure you into our country and then increase the value of our currency once you're here. We'll do it in increments as the investors come in. Because once they're here and they spend millions of dollars starting up companies there, they're not going to leave right away. Let's hope that's their way of thinking. That's mine. Investment is an absolute necessity to develop the reality of the national economy and to move to a better stage. The Commission is supportive of investment efforts that want to enter into Iraq's labor force. So this is good. So what they were talking about, the issue with the reconstruction of Iraq began to be planned immediately after the war. So back in 2003, they were really ready to rock and roll. Unfortunately, a lot of corruption happened. And not only that, the government decided they were going to go somewhat socialist. The government got involved with too many projects dealing with the private sector. And the reason for that was they had a lot of corrupt politicians that got involved with the private sector because they wanted a piece of the pie. So you had to be bribed in order to get projects, permission for projects, and funding for projects. So the corruption embedded itself into a lot of these projects that either stalled or never took off in the first place, which is exactly what you don't want. And that's what they're talking about here, the government getting involved into these private sectors when they never should have. That's what socialists do. They get involved with taking over the private sector. So here it says, according to the estimates issued by the joint report of the World Bank and the United Nations, and a number of independent experts, Iraqi experts that is, Iraq needs somewhere between $88 and $100 billion to implement reconstruction projects. And in our opinion, represents a part of the national economy. Whatever the cost, we are able to bear it. So here's what I like about this. They said, whatever the cost, we can bear it. They have the money. That's the great thing about it. See, the people have been suffering for way too long, man. They really have. Not just there, but in Africa and other countries. There's some very rich countries out there that, unfortunately, the corrupt governments have really, unfortunately, impoverished their people. It's really sad. So, they obviously have the money, but corruption was a big hurdle. Al-Qademi came in. Let's hope that it's straightened out as much as we think it is. They seem to be moving in the right direction. Of course, the labor force is very happy about the devalued currency. People are ready to get in there and start doing projects. They don't need a lot of money to just start reconstruction. $88 to $100 billion can easily be handled, obviously. So the responsibility of rebuilding the state is the responsibility of both the public and private sectors. I'm interested here to address the banking aspect as it roll into the process of rebuilding Iraq. Now, here's what I don't like. Here, you're going to hear the words of, and it's the same words used by what's called the Great Reset. This is bad. You can tell by the way they talk and the words being used, because these are the words used by the Great Reset. So what they're talking about is changing the way the banking is. You can see right here, the International Development Bank, which had an active and positive contribution to the process of rebuilding Iraq by financing a wide range of huge projects in various economic sectors. As the volume of monetary and non-cash credit financing provided the Iraqi public and private banking sector for major projects and companies into the housing sector and small and medium-sized companies exceeded $30 billion, of which the share of the private bank was 28%. And we in the National Development Banking had an active role in financing operations, playing a permanent role in launching the principles of financial inclusion. There are the words right there. Launching the principles of financial inclusion. This is their way of reforming what capitalism is. They use the words financial inclusion. They make it sound like it's for everybody when it's not. And here's the part that I don't like. So it says the principles of financial inclusion to achieve one of our goals of sustainable development and work to transform Iraq to a country less dependent on cash and switching to electronic payment operations, which contributed to raising the efficiency of the banking sector. So they want to go to digital cash, the central bank digital coin. This is what we don't want. We don't want that anywhere in the world. So they're talking about doing what they can to invest into human capital, which is words used by the Great Reset. So look how they do this. Let's see here. It says, our sponsorship in this conference confirms our interest in the reconstruction process of Iraq and a sense of our national responsibility and duty in this context, as we are keen to continue investing in human capital. This is what they call financial inclusion. We do the labor, they benefit monetarily. So, yes, it's good. Remember saying there's pros and cons. Good because they have devalued the currency. They're going to bring in outside investors who want to take advantage of this cheap labor force. This creates and builds a stronger private sector. Again, offers employment, gets more people off of national or governmental aid, and starts paying taxes as well as buy other goods. And eventually, soon, they should start increasing the Iraqi dinar because the economy will grow. So the Ministry of Affairs announced that Iraq's desire to continue cooperation in an international coalition. Yeah, I bet. So the U.S. Secretary of State comments on the bombing of the PMF function. So here it is about this that I don't like, our factions. So they bombed, the United States is, and we learned we don't know if we can trust them or not, what they're saying. So what the United States is, the airstrike carried out by his country targeting the popular mobilization forces in Iraq. We've taken necessary and deliberate actions with airstrikes in Iraq with the aim of reducing the risk of escalation. So, if you guys remember, the leader of the popular mobilization forces was arrested. We quickly saw his military, his people, really surround houses, including Al-Qademis, and take over the green zone for a quick moment. Now, I'm not so sure bombing these people are going to de-escalate things. This is an Iranian-backed militia group or gang, but they also helped Iraq fight ISIS. And sure enough, in here, you're going to see that they are not thrilled about this. Again, Raffidian Bank launches loans without a guarantor. I talked about this last night in the article about the Vietnam Dong, that all of a sudden, banks are starting to lend out money with no interest. Very, very curious about this because it seems to me that more and more people will grab loans, which is good for opening up your business, starting a business, improving your business. Sounds good on the outside, but what it seems to me is that a lot of this is just to really, again, indebt people more and more. We'll see. But I told you, this is happening all around. Even in the United States, we're talking about this. So my thing is, if they're going to give companies interest-free loans, then you should remove the interest off the payments of people with mortgages, car payments, and everything else. So here we go. The popular mobilization crowd issues a statement regarding the American bombing. We reserve the legal right to respond to these attacks. Yeah. So here's my concern, that they actually store up a hornet's nest. That doesn't mean they have, but again, this is a very big and powerful militia group. The Popular Mobilization Authority issued a statement regarding recent U.S. attacks on its forces. The commission said in a statement to the news, at 2 o'clock in the morning on Monday, the American aircraft targeted 3 stations, points of the Popular Mobilization Forces, at a distance of 300 kilometers inside the Iraq border. Because I'm thinking about what the media told us. The media said that these were Iranian-supported groups who are causing civil well, yeah, I'll go with that. The attacks resulted in ascension of 4 martyrs who were performing their usual duty to prevent the infiltration of ISIS terrorist elements. So that's the thing that gets me. They are fighting ISIS, and why the hell are we attacking them? Unless, of course, like Obama, they trained, armed, and funded ISIS. Unless they want ISIS to be a lot more successful, why don't you remove the military or the group that's standing in its way? Let's see if all of a sudden, magically, ISIS starts to grow in strength again. Again, I'm not trying to be a negative person. I'm just bringing you my own perspective on all this and how it affects the dinar. Obviously, if dinar gets in there and starts to grow in numbers and they once again create a caliphate, this is all bad. But that's not what's happening. I'm just kind of future tripping, because if the United States bombs the very group of people that are keeping ISIS from advancing and growing, what does that mean? As well as removing sanctions and allowing Iran to build a nuclear weapon. Yeah, this is all bad. All this is just the 3rd term of the Obama administration, which he's the weakest president. So this is not cool at all. We condemn in the strongest of terms the heinous attacks on our forces. We extend our sincere condolences and sympathy to the families of the dear martyrs. So again, the mobilization group is not thrilled about this, and I don't think they informed the Iraq government. It doesn't appear that they did before they did the airstrike. So, of course, our news and our government's going to tell us one story. We've already learned that it can't be trusted. So we'll see how this plays out. So just to sum everything up real quick, we could see a 3rd term of the Biden administration take place. The removal of sanctions off the Ayatollah as well as business people and the country itself. And then allowing Iran to continue to make nuclear weapons. And then Europe saying they're only a couple months away. Yeah, scary stuff. And anyways, the labor force, of course, the labor investors are, of course, very happy about the devaluing of the currency. This allows them to come in and start businesses with cheaper labor rates, which is good. It's good for the economy. But eventually, you hope that there is a non-corrupt government in there and they do the right thing by allowing the currency to increase in value as time goes on and the private sector start to build. The bombing of the Mobilization Popular group, I don't think that's a good idea. They weren't doing much of anything in as much as stirring up the dust in Iraq. Now, what we're being told in our media is that Iranian-backed groups are causing havoc in Syria and Yemen. And I've not heard about the popular mobilization groups actually being in those areas. So, very interesting that we're being told one thing, and then they actually stir up a hornet's nest. So this next week's going to be very interesting in a lot of different ways. Let's see how everything pans out. Let's see what this bombing has caused. Let's see if anything is going to come of it, bad or good. So it's not good news. It's not bad news. We have good news in the sense that, hey, outside investors are happy about the cheap labor, and we can see that the investors are ready to get in there. The other thing is, if you take in consideration Oh, let's see here. The fact that they have the money to start reconstruction, which is good. They weaned out the corruption. This is good. We need to strengthen the economy. This is good. The removal of sanctions off the Ayatollah in Iran is bad. Sorry, I keep getting that mixed up because I have a gentleman who's from that territory corrected me a couple times. He said it's Iraq and Iran. So I'm trying to be conscious about making sure I pronounce the words right. So, and I do appreciate that he pointed that out. Okay, so look, it's a mixture. It's like a grab bag of news. So it's a mixture of stuff. It's not all bad, only because nothing has happened major yet. I'm anticipating what happens from this. I'm anticipating what it is that Biden is trying to do, as far as allowing Iran to run willy-nilly again. So we'll see what happens if they actually do it or not. Okay, so we'll keep an eye on it. But that's it for now, you guys. Just again, I'm still hopeful. There's not a lot going on in there outside of these little bombings here on the outskirts of Iraq. But for the most part, they seem to be moving in a positive direction, which is good. And that's what we want. All right, hit the thumbs up button. If you are not a subscriber, please do so. Because when you do, it helps out the channel. And I surely do appreciate it. And I'll catch you later. I'm out.